and welcome back to Hindustan Astrology. Now in today's video I want to talk about some very important astrological events that are happening in May. We have 4 planets going retrograde. Now I know we always talk about Mercury going retrograde and how we all get so frustrated because we can't get anything done, and contracts get messed up and emails get lost and all these things happen. Well, now we've got 4 heavy hitters going retrograde. So let's take a look at these dates. We have Venus goes retrograde on May 14th at 27 degrees of Taurus in Mrgashira. Now, when Venus goes retrograde, it's usually, all things Venus come back to us for review. So old flames can come back for a rekindling of a romance or to have closure. Venus rules luxuries and big money. So if we've made an investment in the past that did not come to fruition, we actually might finally get that boon at this time, or we could lose money. It really depends on where where Taurus is in your chart. If it's your Lagna or your moon, then you're probably going to be a little bit better off. Or if it's your 7th house. If it's in a Dhisthana house like 6, 8, 12, then you could be losing money. So it just really kind of depends in your chart where it's at. Now Venus is going to be retrograde, for up until June, but then she's going to go direct. And so she's going to be in Taurus all the way until July 31st. So actually I see this as a great time for the economy to, regain its strength again. I think that the stimulus checks will come out, the money that's due to us will come in. So I don't see this as being such a negative thing. Plus Rahu just switched into Mrgashira and it will go into Taurus in the fall. I think that's going to strengthen the money. So that's Venus going retrograde. Now, we have the next day, May 15th, Jupiter's going retrograde at 3 degrees of Capricorn in Uttara Ashada. Now this one is a bit of conundrum because Jupiter is actually debilitated in Capricorn. But right now he is receiving what's called a Nicha Bhanga Yoga from both Saturn in his own sign of Capricorn and Mars in his exalted sign of Capricorn. So having those 2 planets together with Jupiter is actually helping his debilitation, and it's actually helping world leaders financially to get a handle on this economy again. So now that he's going to go retrograde, he's going to go back into Sagittarius next month in June. And even though Sagittarius is his own sign, and people that do have their Lagna or moon in Sagittarius will receive some good energy at this time. They may get some things together that they needed to. But for world leaders, it's not going to be so good because it's going to be, when Jupiter drops back, he's going to be 12 places away from Saturn and Mars. And so that's kind of the enemy coming from behind. So yeah, I'm not so thrilled about him going back into Sagittarius, even though it's his own sign. But we'll see how it pans out. It's going to be interesting because in June, when they come back together, when when Jupiter goes back into Capricorn and joins Saturn again, in June we're going to have, it'll be about 5 degrees apart, but they're going to be conjunct. And that's a game changer. That's a point of manifestation. So that won't happen again until December 20th, and they will be exactly conjunct at 6 degrees. So that's December 20th is going to be the real beneficial time, I believe, for Jupiter to be in Capricorn. Now, we also have, Saturn goes retrograde first. Before Venus, Saturn goes retrograde on May 11th. So he's in his own sign of Capricorn. And he will stay in Capricorn the whole time he's retrograde. He will not go back into Sag, but Jupiter will. So they're kind of doing this dance together, you know, at this time. Yeah, it's going to be, you know, having Saturn, Venus, and Jupiter all going retrograde. It's just going to be intense. Um, and so just know that this is coming up, and, you know, just try not to stress too hard right now. It's good that we have Rahu in Mrgashira at this time. So, yeah, just, you know, try to, you know, use the perseverance of Saturn in his own sign at this time. And Venus in her own sign. That's excellent. And they're both in Earth signs, so they're trining each other. So I really think, you know, for the economy, things are going to be, you know, like I said, this dance back and forth. But we're going to get through it. So I just wanted to warn you guys, and thank you very much. Namaste. Okay, you guys, so let's look at the exact timing of these retrogrades that are coming up, because it's pretty crazy. So today is April 22nd, and this is the planets where they are right now. And so the first planet that's going to go retrograde is Pluto, and it's going to happen on the 25th. So let's just go forward. Okay, there it is, 26th. It's probably the evening of the 25th. Let's just back it up. Okay. So the exact time that Pluto goes retrograde is the 25th at 3:46 p.m. EST. That's Eastern Standard Time. Now we are on daylight savings time, but that's the time zone for it. So that's the exact time that Pluto goes retrograde, and you can see he hasn't even reached 1 degree yet. So technically, I mean, he's within a degree of Jupiter still. So we still have that intensity of, you know, dark agendas being exposed and being forced upon us as well. And now when Pluto goes retrograde, those issues are going to be highlighted, and he's going to be retrograde for a while, I think up until November. But let's go on to next month. So we go forward, and the first planet to fall is Saturn, and that should be on the 11th. Yes, let's get the exact time. Okay, so here we go. 11th, like right after midnight, 12:46 a.m. EST. Now, by this point, Mars will have moved on into Aquarius, as you see. And Saturn will be sitting closer to Jupiter. And then there's that Pluto retrograde. So the next one we have fall is Venus. I believe it's the 14th. Yes, there she is. So Venus goes retrograde. I mean, it's just like dominoes falling. And then Jupiter goes. So on that day, she's going to be with Mercury. Now, I do refer to Venus as a she, even though in Jyotisha, all of the planets are male, but the stars are female. So it's definitely balanced. It's not that they favor male over female. It's just that that's the way the Vedas describe them. But to me, Venus is a woman. I'm sorry. It's really hard for me to call her he. So you have to forgive me. But on that day, Mercury will be there. Let's just go forward. Sun joins. Oh, I just missed the Jupiter. All
Okay, here we go. So on the 15th, let's just look at the hour, actually. No, he goes on the 14th as well. Okay. So basically at the same time, at the same time that Venus goes retrograde is when Jupiter goes retrograde. That's, that's major, especially because he's giving her his fifth aspect, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's his strongest. Well, the 7th actually is, I think, his strongest, but 5 and 9 work with him as well. And so I believe this has to do with money. I mean, of course, it's going to depend on your lagna and your moon as to how it affects you and what dasha cycle you're in and everything. But in general, Jupiter and Venus rule the things that money can buy. Mercury's the actual legal tender, but Jupiter rules wealth, and Venus rules mega wealth. So luxury items, and also when Venus goes retrograde, like we discussed, it's, old flames coming back, either to get rekindled or to find closure. Money that's owed to us can get paid back at this time, or we could lose money. Now, I can't imagine that we're going to lose any more money than we already have in this pandemic. So I think this is when the stimulus checks are really going to be in people's hands. The economy is going to get back online because look at that. It's February 14th. And from what I understand, California is on a stay-at-home order until the 15th. So this is just in time for all of that stuff to come back to people. So let's just go forward. So now we've got everything. 1, 2, 3, all 4 planets. Let's just look at the rest of May and see how these play out. Because in June, we have solar eclipse. Actually, I have 2 eclipses, so it's going to be very intense. Yeah, so this is just the rest of the month, and you can see it's kind of heavy energy, kind of stagnant. Things aren't really going to be moving. Let me just check the date on the, okay, so June 5th at 3:11 p.m. we have the full moon penumbral lunar eclipse at 21 degrees of Scorpio, Jyeshtha Nakshatra. And then June 21st, we have the new moon annular solar eclipse. This is the big one, guys. 6 degrees Gemini in Mrgashira. So let's take a look at those. June 5th, June 21st, and just see how these retrograde planets play out. So June 5th is the first one. Okay. So just looking at the moon chart, those 3 heavy hitters are 3 places from the moon. So media and communications are going to take a hard hit, short distance travel. But you know what? I think people are going to be getting back on the road as well. But part of the problem is that because we are starting to roll back the stay-at-home orders, this virus is very insidious, and it's kind of like when you take your antibiotics and then you take 3/4 of the bottle and you don't take them all because you're feeling better, and then the infection comes back. And that's kind of how I'm seeing this energy play out, is that we might have rolled back the stay-at-home orders too soon, and because people are getting antsy, they want to get their businesses started, which is understandable. But the consequences, Pluto rules viruses, you guys. It's the power of the small. And when he goes retrograde, he's, reminding us the issues that we just went over. So I'm kind of feeling like that's going to, and especially with the moon being in Scorpio, which actually is healing. And in Jyeshtha, the elders are really going to be suffering. A lot of elders are dying right now. And just looking at the US chart where this is playing out. So if we see the moon is in Scorpio, sun's up here with Uranus. And then, well, Pluto's at 0 degrees, 28 minutes on that day, but the US Pluto is in a retrograde position. So it's at 6 degrees. So really later on when we hit that degree, it's going to impact us a lot. But just the fact that it's in the same sign is significant, and the same nakshatra. Okay, so let's just wrap this up. Let's go forward to, what did I say? The 15th, I believe. Check it again. No, June 21st, 2:39 a.m. New moon annular solar eclipse, 6 degrees Gemini, Mrigashira, June 21st. Okay, so this is the big solar eclipse. This is the one that is going to be a game changer. Now, if you see in our chart, the US chart, we have Mars, Venus, Jupiter, and the Sun all in Gemini. And for that eclipse, it's taking place right there. This is in our 7th house of, guess, when you're looking at, mundane astrology, 7th house is your opponent, it's your enemy. This is the self, this is us. And on this day, we have K2, like, well, actually, he's just passed over the US ascendant, but he's still within a few degrees. It's going to be intense. So, there's just a lot of heat around, everyone's pointing fingers. Everyone wants to blame somebody. US wants to blame China. China wants to blame the US. It's just a hot mess. So this is indicating that energy at that time. But the good thing is, you guys, is that having K2 and Willow, we're getting down to the root of the problem. And you don't want to stay stuck in dealing with the symptoms of the problem, which is what we've been doing. And I really feel like, even though it's been terrible, that we've had these horrible, things happen to everyone suffered through this, but we're getting down to the root of the problems of our society, our approach to life, our lifestyle, everything. And so ultimately it is going to be good. It's not a doom and gloom scenario. I do not see that at all. So I just want to end it with that, because it's getting a little long, but also, I don't want to cram your brain with too much stuff right now. In June, Mars is going to be in Pisces, and it's time for us to get out and get active. Like, when I think of Mars and Pisces, I think of going swimming, doing something, submerging yourself in a water sport, doing something to get us out of our head. Because when you're exercising, you're in your body and you're out of your head. We also have a Kala Sarpa yoga at this time of the eclipse. So, just hang tight, you guys. We're going to get to the other side. So, all right. See you later.